Hi Capricorn. This is your August 2024 reading, Leo season reading. All information to work with me one-on-one is below, as well as the extended version of this reading, which will be in the first link below, but give it about 24 hours after this video comes out to check on that. Unless you subscribe to the Patreon, then you will be able to receive it in your email first every month. New podcast episode will be coming out next week. One came out last month. We're going to take out those cards. And it's a new segment that I'll be doing every month. More to come. Website will be out next month, but you can still connect with me and book sessions below and contact me below as well. Looking forward to connecting with you. The Moon, Five of Cups, and the Fool. Now, I actually really love this for you because this is like a new life, new inspiration. You enjoy winning. You enjoy winning, especially if it's what you want to win at, what you've set out yourself to do. I'm gonna get a little lavender in here. And that is something to not be modest about with yourself. I think that's the most important thing with the moon here. The moon here, this is just saying, you know, Capricorn, there are some things you really need to address. Some things that you can't just work away. You can't just walk away, work away, fix other things away. Anything in your life that's showing up right now, I just want you to think about and reflect on conversations you've been having with yourself or with other people in the past month, and what conversations you realize you wish you would rather be having. Now, for some of you, you're starting to have these conversations. For others of you, you are moving towards a much greater opportunity for yourself in this lifetime. The sooner that you, and this, I'm not saying like do this quickly, recognize this quickly, but the sooner that you acknowledge who you're not anymore, who you find yourself trying to be, but you know, it's actually not working out for you. It was just something that was implemented at some time in your life. Maybe it was an attachment. We've been talking a lot about that, especially with Capricorn, Cancer, but the effect that it has on us, right, shows up in times like Leo season, and this month is bringing healing of seeing. You know, there's a moment where you realize that you need to grieve and move on willingly, move on diligently, move on inspired. This isn't about moving on because you're forcing yourself to get over something or grieve something, and it has a sadness to it, but I think what you're finding is it's not so much sadness, but there's a detachment from what you expected from that time, and now you're looking towards the future, and you're not just jumping off the cliff for a risk for an adrenaline rush, because there are those Capricorns out there. This is an integration. This is you willingly integrating what you've needed to into your mind from the ground up. A little insight into, even more insight into how I like to bring into readings is the body, because the body is most intuitive. I'm not a medical professional. This is just how I read. And it can just signal you if there's something you've been thinking about for a while or putting off, taking a look at your feet or getting grounded. What does that mean for you? I mean spiritually. Pisces and Saturn retrograde. Capricorn risings, that will be in your third house of communication, and especially with the people closest to you, how you connect with them, how you connect with yourself. This pressure, this excessive pressure could be coming from this question that maybe you've had over the years, right? What you find you're giving your permission for yourself more now is that you be more intuitive with your day-to-day. You realize that your body sometimes needs time and space for the mind to process and vice versa. But your most fortunate moment is yet to come into an endeavor where you're putting you're going for it. So there's a lot of guidance in spiritual text to not go if you're going to leave any parts of your soul or parts of yourself behind or one foot behind you, because there could be like literal metaphors for this too. But if you're not going to go with your full heart and you're not going to go with everything, why go at all? That is you. That's a big part of you. Like, you're not just going to initiate. This is something that you've been strategically preparing for, and it just shows up physically different than what you were expecting. You're expecting something else, and all of a sudden something else comes out of the blue, and all of a sudden gears are turning, and 5 of Cups to 5 of Wands. You're no longer fighting this part of yourself. You don't have to. You're rewriting. You're rewriting the script in real time. This is improving, especially for those of you, because there's a fear, right? So for some of you, this is moving on from something that you've put a lot of energy into. However, it's just not worth, the cons are not worth the pros. And so, and you don't need to see it that way, but that's just like simply what it is. It's just not, it's like, it's very black and white to you right now, and it's causing more frustration than it could be giving, and fortunate times are more to come. And you're feeling that, this is filling that sense of self-worth, this, which you may not see as right away, but it's rewiring yourself to realize that, you know, working may look different moving forward. And there's just a lot of cards that fell out. What work looks like, what it's becoming. How you've been really preparing for this is one of the moments that perhaps you've been preparing for, right? Capricorn, we had that full moon. So you may have had to grieve something since then, maybe a certain freedom in your life as well for some of you, a part of your identity, perhaps. And it had to do with how whomever you're moving through life with, or the situation that is showing up and revealing to you that even though you have enjoyed the structure and what it's given to you, it's not working for the way forward. It's not working with whoever whichever way you're choosing now, whoever is in your life, however you work, that you need to allow this to end and allow your independence in a certain way to take full swing. We'll talk more about the Saturn-Jupiter square too. So this is also giving a little bit of that, which is coming up. It's on the 19th, so it's like a little ways away, honestly. Sorry. It's coming up at the end of the month, not right now. But this is giving you time to realize that it may provide a moment where you realize that a certain part of you is going through a change. And for some reason, you're holding on even though it's no longer good for you, and you're seeing it all the way through, but you get through it. And then, you know, from the 5 to 5, but the 5 of Wands to the 3, is that you release things that have been actually in your way. They've been in your way. Too much has been in your head. You've been looking for a way to defend what you have, and it may have been rational at one point, but now it's just keeping you stuck. It's keeping you where you are, and now you need like fun, loving, swift moving inspiration that you may get being around people who are more youthful. It doesn't matter how old they are. It's just about being youthful. And then all of a sudden you realize what's really in your way is yourself, your doubt, self-doubt. And it's time to get a handle on that. If you haven't got a handle on that from now and during the retrograde, this is full retrograde. Because like you're probably asking, well, are you sure? How do you know? Well, here, this is how I know. You're like, what? This Ace of Cups, this sounds too good to be true. No, it's not. But you're going to be asked to move on from some things and really address why, what work does for you, what it gives for you, why our goals, our ambition, or your ego, what you're attached to there, what has, and how it's actually done some harm for you. And it's just showing you where you're closing out a cycle of control. This stemmed from the most dominant caregiver in your life, perhaps. We're gonna get really into these cards. There's so many, Capricorn. I was not expecting all this, but let me tell you, I was feeling low, and now I realize I was doing what you're doing. I was feeling what you're feeling. Sometimes even the very thoughtful, skillful goat, like, what's that for if you're not going to use it, is kind of what I'm getting to. Like, what's it for if you're not just going to use it? So this is life telling you it's time to utilize. It's time to take each day by day, take your dream day by day, just like you do work, just like you do any goal. And you're like, but I can't create boundaries, or it's not the point. It's time to get to something that's been on your mind for way too long, that's kept you held back, right? That's kept you fixated on things, that's keeping you from true independence, maybe even. And it's about really looking towards the future in a way that is not in. So you've been in this cycle of like working hard and then feeling like you have to do something. It's like this drama. You don't realize that, like, when you're adverse to drama and you think you're getting to the point, sometimes that can bring drama for other people. Sometimes it's about being around it. Sometimes it's just being in, like, within it, that it gets into your life, or you realize that it's in your life in a way that you didn't realize that it's been impacting you for quite some time. And if this is about someone who there could be someone in your life who's been kind of playing this game with you too, been keeping you in a circle, been keeping you in a loop of drama. This is where we're gonna see like some of the most drastic things come out in people too. So you could also have been hidden from this because you're seeing someone in your life who has been keeping you in this loop of like, I'm working too hard for this, and then there's drama, and if you're, looking, so things are going, and things are going one way or the other this month. Things are getting deepened, or they're severing ties of any situation. Doesn't matter. And I like to be open, but it's very clearly stating here this too, is that there's something that could be tied in the ego of both of, in which how you've learned to care from a certain person, but you don't realize that because you've been adverse to it, or you feel a certain emotion by it, you just kind of leave it at that instead of realizing why. Like, yeah, sometimes it's good for setting boundaries, of course, but it's also kept you from addressing something you've needed to address, so it's coming up in your very intimate relationships. Doesn't matter. It's people closest to you. And you're going to realize it's just because your ego wants to control, because you need to move on from a certain identity. And what's been formed around that identity just so happens to be included in a lot of areas of life, of course. Everyone has their protective mechanisms that they add into their life. And I think some of you don't realize what you add just not to feel certain things that would actually mold your life in a way that you really do want, and that's much more productive. But Capricorn, maybe you just couldn't do it till now. Everyone is getting this piece too, which is really interesting, is that you may feel like this is happening in a way to you, and only you, but it's happening to everyone on a certain scale. It just feels very big for you because this is going to change the way you work. And you've been used to working in a certain way for a while, but this is going to help whatever's felt stagnant release. You'll feel more flexible, right? Whether it's a situation, a person, a way of thought, a way of life, and if that switches the people around you, if that switches like how you connect and relate to people for a moment just to get yourself in order, that's fine, but it's giving you direction away from something that's been sitting and festering within you. This way to express yourself. And doubting that only created more of this in ways in which you didn't realize, because you were controlling it so easily that it's just been coming out in all of these ways. And then you find yourself in certain relationships where you didn't like think why, but like, you know how straightforward you are with other people and how you read their life. It's just so interesting because you just want to have a good time, but people don't realize that you're really fucking like there's so many things I want to say. So there's a saying that what people are drawn to, especially in terms of romance, but I do find this in friendship too, relationships in general, especially like when it's people you consistently find yourself running into, or similar kinds of people that you find yourself running into. Usually what attracts you to them is what separates you in the end, or it's what can like help your egos dissolve and come together and move forward. You have the opportunity of a real sense of abundance, a lot of fortune, and it's about letting this, because you're not wanting to just like let it all go. It's just this part of you, and you so beautifully identify it when you can, and when it's just time, right? You're so present, and Leo season's making you so present. So, and Mercury retrograde might make you a little bit more critical, or Capricorn, it can help you loosen up and let the fuck go a little. And so what that looks like for every one of you is different. But when you do that, you realize how much room it creates to allow these changes to happen. Where you're not holding on, too tightly. And sometimes the thing we end up not so much loving or caring for in another could be something we've learned from a toxic past that can't move on with us, but it's also what we're unwilling to see in ourselves sometimes. Like the list goes on. It really just depends on the situation. But right now you're seeing where we're denying a certain part of your brain and how powerful it is. A certain conquest, it's kind of inadvertently used itself against you just to get yourself to realize like this is what it is. At one point you could have thought it was like not cool or geeky or weird or like in the realm of whatever that means to you, or just not like up to par, or not what you've been taught or raised to do, and you feel like breaking free too much feels like too much of a rebellion. But you've been slowly doing it anyway, and you still like always show up so sophisticated regardless, and it's like a time where like putting courage and faith in yourself is very powerful. So it's going to feel that way, because breaking free from this dramatic swing or addiction, I know that can be sensitive, but it is, right? Addressing those things too. And just realizing where this energy really does need to go. What your ego really needs right now is to learn where it's been controlling you and where you are taking control back, and how you can utilize that energy to, in a very powerful way, move forward in this next version of your life with a sense of adventure. The Mercury retrograde is revealing to you, actually all of these transits are revealing to you a sense of direction And how doubt, when you think of an idea and then you start doubting it too much or overthinking it too much, instead of like just actively, even just writing it out is an active sign of letting it out there, is denying yourself the chance to experience this. And creating that doubt is there to like try to get you to not do it. But the truth is, it's like time to get it done, and what else gets in your way? You may say yes too much, and you need to like just like realize where that's all coming from. For those of you, for others of you, it's about not, once things get started, not putting other things in your way, or not, it's about letting things take form and learning where you can communicate not only with yourself, but with the energy, with the person, with the situation, and navigate from there. Because especially if you're working and collaborating, if this is really something you are taking independent, because independent doesn't mean just necessarily alone, even though we are being guided to do something on our own. But I think for you, it's being daring enough to heal this particular aspect, which will also illuminate your life in a way that is not as mental, but like also mental. It's how you're able to do the mental, physical thing in such a unique way. Yeah. And how you're able to then give power to it. Because something's just been feeding your ego, because that's what's been working. And yeah, it's been working for a while and it's worked, but now it could still be working, it's just not working for you. So we'll get into the next part. We'll see you there in next month. All links are below. Thank you so much.